And time is moving on, and I want to bring in my dear friend, Doug Woodring, who I haven't seen for years. But Doug, you're in Hong Kong, right?
I am. Good morning from Hong Kong. How are you?
Oh, it's great to see you, buddy. Doug and I have worked together in Hong Kong, and we bumped into each other and sort of half worked together at various glorious conferences around the world, which is a bit more exciting than just talking to a laptop. But nevertheless, it's brilliant to have you here, Doug. I know you've got a plan as to how you want this session to run. So over to you, and I'll disappear, and we can both disappear when your thing's running.
Okay. Well, let's see if I can share my screen here, and if we
Okay,
can,
buddy.
then it's going to be magic, and then we can come back after that, and hopefully go from there and have a good talk about nature and plastic and a few of those good things.
Couldn't be better, buddy. I'm ready.
Is my screen up there?
Can't see it yet. I've got you down here as you're here, Doug number 1. And
you see Doug 2.
Oh, there you go. Look at that. I can add it for you. There you go. That's it. That's it.
Oh, the magic. Look at that. Okay, well, some of you know that I'm sort of related to the Ocean Recovery Alliance and a lot of work with plastic, but of course the ecosystems, and the ecosystems are so important for the world around us. And I think this Ethiopian proverb is just a really interesting way to talk about how the world is interconnected and all the animals, whether it's for the ocean or for land. In this case, it's for land. And we're talking about when spider webs unite, they can stop a lion. But when one strand of the spider is gone, the spider web is gone, the web collapses. And it's pretty analogous to our ecosystem and how all life forms actually survive and thrive off of one another. If just one strand is gone, then the whole system is out of alignment. But when they work together, when the spiders work together, the webs work together, they can actually stop a lion. And each actually works as an important link to each other's space and survival within that ecosystem. So unfortunately, Nagasi, whose name means will wear a crown, experienced this ripple effect of nature on his way home from school one day. He was walking through the bush. It had just rained. It was a nice spring afternoon. There was a thunderstorm, so all the plants and the trees were wet, water's dripping, glistening in the sun. And he saw a butterfly flickering between the flowers and the bushes, and he started to chase it. He wasn't trying to kill it. He just wanted to watch it because it was so beautiful, the dark black and blue. And he was darting in and out of the branches, and he had a stick in his backhand. And little did he know that the stick actually caught the edge of a big spider web, and it collapsed part of it along the way. And the spider, unfortunately, was sitting there after the rain, waiting for a good meal, looking for a cricket that he was watching in the bushes. And he knew the cricket was going to go into that web, but the web broke and he couldn't get the cricket. He hadn't eaten in days, and he was immediately impacted by the loss of his main hunting tool, that web. The cricket that escaped was a female cricket, and she was ready to lay thousands of eggs. So because she survived the spider's trap, she was able to jump to the next blade of grass and eat an aphid that it was spying on. Happily, this gave her more capacity to lay her eggs, and the eggs hatched in full. Now, usually the crickets get fed on by snakes and rodents and small birds, all of which thrive in the grasses of the meadow. So because of the cricket escaped the web, it happened to have perfect luck and timing without other predators around. The birds weren't there just yet. Perfect weather to lay the eggs. And there were a lot of eggs, and all her friends laid eggs too. So all the crickets got born, and they were super hungry to start their lives off strong with the fresh grasses in their new world. The small birds and the rodents and the snakes all had a feast for a couple of days because the cricket had escaped the spider after Nagasi had accidentally collapsed the web. All the baby crickets were able to proliferate, eating off the grasses. But the feast wasn't necessarily over. For the snakes and the rodents and the birds, now they were the feast. And the eagles were able to find all of these animals much easier because the crickets had eaten all of the grass. When the grass was gone, the rodents had nowhere to hide, the birds had nowhere to roost. Now the eagles had nowhere also to hunt because all of that feed stock was gone for them. The antelope had nothing to graze on, and the elephants couldn't even find their favorite plants, which they were eating with thousands of crickets in the past, were all dry. So even the dung that the elephants create from eating was not able to be made because there was no more elephants roaming around. And when that happened, the ground wasn't fertilized anymore and it wasn't mixing with the soil. The dung beetles had nowhere else to roll their homes and the flies had nothing else to eat. The soil hardened without the grasses, and when it rained, they washed off the land in flash floods right into the ponds where the hippos and the crocodiles lived. But it was short-lived because there was no water table. The water wasn't able to absorb into the ground because the grasses weren't there, and the ponds soon dried up, all because the web was broken. The lion was also stopped because he had nothing else to hunt for. He was in a dead zone, relatively, because the web had broken. There was no more antelope, no more gazelles, no more wildebeest. Even the hyena weren't there anymore. In his home turf, the grasses he used to hide in were no longer there. Nagasi couldn't believe it when he actually retraced his actions a few weeks later. He finally put in this little mini ecosystem in collapse into his mind and realized that it all started from his stick collapsing the spider web. He was absolutely heartbroken. He knew the lions were usually seen at the top of the web, and that without them, the synergies with the animals, the plants, and nature would not exist. And he felt so bad that the lion and all others were suffering too. As he walked through the dry bush, wondering what to do, suddenly, to top it all off, he couldn't believe his eyes when he saw a poacher in the distance, looking for the lion. He knew that this was a new sad trend to poach lions because most of the world's tigers had been driven to regional extinction already from overhunting in a quest for their bones and skins for superstitious medicinal properties in Asia, which have already been well proven to not actually exist. Now much of the trade from Asia is turning its focus to lions as the next big cat to try to sell in the illegal wildlife trade. Upset at himself for accidentally causing this chain reaction from the spiderweb collapse, he wasn't about to let the poacher bring further misery to the wildlife in Nagasi's area. So with a sharp homemade arrow, he crawled through the spare shrubbery, only the little bit remaining. With his arrow, he hit the poacher right in the back of the arm, rendering him helpless to continue poaching forever. He will never poach again. Nagasi realized that humans often don't understand that they harm nature if they take out one piece of the web. It's nature's intricate way of working. Whether it's a lion at the top, the spider at the bottom, or something in between, if we remove it through pollution, hunting, land loss, we lose it all. Whether it's just from a stick, on a web, or a poacher's bullet. Luckily, the spider was strong enough to survive and recreated its web, and soon after caught one of the crickets. It survived, the grasses came back, and the spider was strong enough to build more webs, bringing back life to that region of the meadow. It caught the morning dew, the grasses came back, and all of the animals returned. The web also became strong enough to stop the lion again, not only because it collaborates and the spiders collaborate to work to slow the biggest animal of the land, but it doesn't mean they stop them forever. It doesn't mean they have the power to hurt the lion. It just means they have the power to control the ecosystem. In fact, every single animal in the ecosystem has the same power, because if one of them is lost, the web collapses. Similar to saying that when a butterfly flaps its wings, it creates a ripple effect with a strong wind somewhere else. When a species is lost, even if in a local area, it can create an imbalance in nature. Luckily, we have the ability to collaborate, bring ourselves together, and to work together like spider webs, maybe keeping the lions in place, but not removing them from the ecosystem. Today, it's the humans who've been pulling the spider from the web and pulling that web apart. Nagasi figured that out the hard way, but now he wears his crown around the village with pride because he knows what the secret of nature is. Thank you, Paul. Good to be here today.
Wow, Doug, what a great story, as only can be told by Doug Woodring. It's a beautiful story. I love it. Nagasi's story, he who wears a crown. And probably along with, I mean, we don't know how many people are watching at the moment. I haven't checked, but when I took a nap a little while ago, there was 83 countries and listening to about 160 speakers and thousands of people. So plus, of course, the reach on the iPhones, which we know online is a little bit of a, unscientific, but we're talking to a lot of people out there, Doug. And you've just encapsulated the whole global effort and the whole global thinking that's going on with biodiversity. Thank you very much. Absolutely love it. Because,
well, thank you for having me. I mean,
sometimes I wonder if I'm crazy, because I'm so optimistic at the moment. I've never seen such a high level of awareness with global environmental issues since COVID arrived. I mean, I was at Davos just before COVID arrived, and I was excited to hear all the big financial groups and the smart global leaders telling us that the old investments are now finished. It's the new green, blue, natural capital investments that are doing best. And I was so excited to hear that. And Prince Charles's talk about the Great Reset and launching the conservation markets. I thought, wow, we're really getting somewhere. Well, when COVID hit, this extraordinary period, which has just knocked everybody back so much, one of the first things that happened was the headlines from people who didn't expect that say our health is reliant on everybody else's health, which in turn is reliant on nature. And I was sort of celebrating these things whilst managing our own affairs to do with COVID and learning how to live an online life for a period. So I get optimistic. We've had lots of really optimistic, forward-looking economic advice in this conference. We've had a lot of good news stories about political decisions being made because of this sweet spot we find ourselves in. But I wonder how many people really take the moment to have a pause and think about spider webs uniting and stopping a lion. I wonder how many have actually thought that way. What do you think?
I think not a lot have, but COVID, for better, for worse, I think is nature's calling. Nature doesn't have a voice, and it's screaming out to us saying, slow down, look at what's around you, figure this out, because we've been here forever and you haven't, and you need us to survive. And even the smallest things, you lose the bees, then you have no pollen, you don't have fruit and vegetables. I mean, it is so linked, and we're not seeing it in a big way enough because the tragedy is not fast enough for us to go into war mode to fix those things. We just see it like the frog in a boiling pot, and when it's boiled, it's too late. And so I think it's great in a way that we're all hunkered down in our own territories, understanding where the new trails are and the new cliffs are and the new little water spot is. Wow, I didn't know that existed, and how can I keep that there for later on? This is all starting to happen.
It feels a bit like action. We learned just yesterday from my friend Mark Evans, who runs Outward Bound Oman. He reminded us that Kurt Hahn sort of coined that phrase spectatorism. And as you know, spectatorism, what a fantastic word. I'm going to use it all the time. And he said, it's a terrible thing that we can end up being highly knowledgeable, feeling as if we've been everywhere, and never true than today with this virtual travel as we do, feel as if we've been everywhere, feel as if we know it, and yet it has to hit us hard that we're just spectators, spectatorism. We need to somehow generate the smart thinking. And I feel we're getting there. We hear a lot about the end of these unsustainable subsidies in various industries, you know, whether it's fishing or oil and gas or all these different, and these numbers are now loud and clear. We've got the, you know, the ultimate motivator that all of our health as people suddenly realize it's nature based. We heard from the Das Gupta review yesterday, manages Treasury, the great Emily McKenzie. She did a great job of reminding us all that the Das Gupta review, the headline is that all economies must be based on nature. So I feel that we're really getting somewhere, and it's just somehow people like you and your work encapsulating all of your background and all of your story and putting it into compelling ways, so that almost handing it on a plate to global leaders to make the smart decisions. So how are we going to do that?
Well, can I do my screen share again?
Of course you can.
Want to go in a little bit of the plastic world, if
yes, please.
Can, just for a
come on, let's have it.
Just for a quick one. I don't know if this is going to be possible here, but let me try this again.
It's going to be great. And everybody, while Doug gets set up, I've been standing on Doug's shoulders on plastics for many years. He does a great job on plastics. Quite the leader.
So I'm should be on now.
See if I can see it.
Visible.
Is it the hang on?
It's the same slide, same link. Everything.
Sorry, buddy. There you go. You're in.
I'm in. So one of the things I really am proud about is our work in Cambodia, which is with the water rising and water falling festivals. We try to create programs that can be used anywhere in the world. They can be replicated. They can be used by villages or towns or cities or businesses, obviously depending who the stakeholders are, depending who the players are. And in Cambodia, they have really, in the villages, certainly no big zero opportunities for waste removal. It was either dump in the water or burn. And so a number of years ago, I noticed when the water falls, all the plastic comes out of the villages, gets stuck in the trees. And we created 2 events, which happen every 6 months, because the water in the Tonle Sap Lake falls and rises 6 meters every year. That's more than any other lake and water body in the year. It's like a 2-time tide flow. And within an hour after meeting the monks, we were on the riverbanks with them, picking plastic out of the trees with a long bamboo pole. And the boat stopped and they looked up there and they said, wow, how come the monks are up there with their orange robes picking out things from the trees like Christmas ornaments? And it was plastic. And since then, we've been doing this for the last 3 years. And it's really amazing because we've cleaned up the rivers, and now we're in 30 villages around the Tonle Sap Lake, which is very biodiverse, also very much under pressure with dams, with overfishing, with pollution. It's a very flat lake. In this case, the monk is watching us clean the river. We put up nets as the most easy way to clean the surface of rivers anywhere in the world, but not really getting done enough yet. The fishermen got involved, and the monk said, oh my gosh, finally now I can tell the people and they will trust me. I can ask them not to put trash in the water. Because before, when the water is trashed, no one trusts the system. They don't trust the government. They don't trust the monks. They don't trust the community. They put their garbage back. As soon as we clean the river, the local government created a fine system and said, if you put your garbage bag near the water edge, you'll get a fine. And the monk said, now I can tell my community, hey, if you put that thing in the water, you're going to have bad karma. And then in the Buddhist world, that means a lot. And ever since then, the villagers, the village chiefs, the fishermen have all been working together to fix this and clean it. And we now have a new program called Harvest Plastic Only, which is for the villagers. They put their plastic in a big rice bag, which we designed for them, and they return it and get rice. And this is very important in the COVID time. We've still done talks. We've still done COVID cleanups, which are all socially distanced, but it mobilizes the people. And with that, we've had a great experience, and love to chat about that a bit. But this could be done kind of anywhere in any country, and we call it a festival, like you're doing with Bio Festival. Biodiversity. It's not a challenge for cleanup. It's not something that has a bad name. It's something that gets everyone, the kids, the monks, the fishermen, the village chiefs, all excited. We're going to the festival, and we're going to learn about keeping the water clean and good and nice and appreciate it.
I think it's brilliant, Doug. I mean, you've communicated so many great stories here today. And I think plastic has become this common denominator that means that we can talk about a lot of global issues via plastic. We really can. And particularly my work in the ocean and your work in the ocean, your tracker project that you've done, the tracker app. And I just want to very quickly show this to you. This is Doug's main website that I go to catch him. It's a good place to look. He's active online, social media, but look on there, you follow him along, and then hunt through and find out what particular project. But I know Doug through plastic, and I remember being there in Hong Kong on the pier, and you showed me the artwork that had been displayed from nets from the Pacific garbage patch, and clever work.
That was the net man.
That was the
10-foot tall net man.
and then this great thing. I wished I'd been there for it, Doug. But covers in the drains on the road, and they say like the ocean starts here. That's all you need.
Great art, simple message, and we launched that 5 years ago. It's a little plaque next to the storm drain, and it's called Great Art because it's great art, but it's next to the grate of the storm drain. And literally, after 5 years that I planted the seed, just 3 months ago, someone from the Drainage Services Department called us back and said, we want to do this again in 3 districts. And I've been waiting for that, call and email for so long, and you never know when the trigger's when it's gonna go. But now we're doing it again. So it's all about planting the seeds and getting out there. And our app that you talked about, Global Alert, it lets people report trash hotspots anywhere in the world's waters. And it's really meant for watersheds upstream, creeks and rivers, so that you can put those simple fishing nets like the monk was looking at. It's not high tech. It's just getting surface water clean. And when you do that, you build enormous amount of trust with the government, the local chiefs, the local authorities, NGOs, and then people get on your team. And then you can start really doing things.
And it's funny about plastic, isn't it, Doug? Because I know we've shared the same experiences in different parts of the world, but it's this thing that people, in a way, enjoy it because they feel as if they're doing something positive. Because we can get, unless we're fortunate enough to be working at the front line, if we're working, say, in an office or somewhere where we don't feel in contact with these global issues, it can look, and you'll have had the same feedback I have, as just an overwhelming set of stuff, from overfishing to climate change to, what are we going to do? Pollution everywhere, all seems to be a bit too much. But something as simple as going out your front door and getting stuck into one of Doug's or anybody's plastic cleanup campaign, beach cleans, artwork, awareness raising, it appeals to that basic instinct that we all want to do something. And of course, that's all part of the dream, really, isn't it, Doug? That in our daily lives, we should be thinking about global issues. Everything we do. I made a commitment to the EU just Friday that for the next year, every single act I make will have an ocean component, ideally to be beneficial towards the ocean. So this is what we need. So you're looking at a blue man, Doug, wet, bit salty, bit windblown.
So I assume that means you're going to swim to visit me in Hong Kong via the ocean. So you should start now. So
this is it. This is the whole thing. So it's these things that we need. And it's that sort of dream of somehow, all of us having a sense that we are engaged with global issues. And your lovely story from Spiderweb sort of tells us that, doesn't it? Everything we do has an impact on this planet. With this, what I say it, Doug, this sweet spot that we're in for action, nature-based action, it seems to me that we're there and that we can get some smart decisions made pretty quickly. I think we're getting into it, and certainly I think our leaders and influencers and business leaders have started to realize that the power of the young people and the sharpness and drive for action of the young people, it must worry them a bit, because they're suddenly realizing, hey, they're all going to be voters very soon. In fact, a lot of them are voters. They look very young, but they're already voters. And whether they are chief execs or leaders in businesses or political leaders, whether it's community or national leaders, these people are going to vote. And that, I don't think these young ones coming up are necessarily voting because they're in a particular party. I think we are seeing that tide turn, which is a dream, where people are voting and purchasing based on values. It's our dream, isn't it, Doug? Someone goes in to buy a mortgage or a pension or a house or a flight or something, a sandwich, and you don't look at, it's a bit cheaper or it's the most desirable and fashionable, but this is the one with the best values. And value-based purchasing is a bit like voting, and voting is a lot like changing the planet. So it feels to me that we're really there. I mean, we'll be drinking champagne soon.
Well, and when you say value, everyone should remember, it doesn't mean cheap and bad quality. It means good product made from sustainable and recycled content, something like that. So your comment about getting out and doing something and just being part of it, with carbon, you can't really do that because you can't see things. But plastic often has names on it. It's got a brand. But also, when you think about plastic litter, remember that every single piece of plastic waste left someone's hand before it became garbage. And it doesn't mean that they tried to throw it away and make the garbage, but they don't have the infrastructure. They don't have the system in the city. Someone hasn't spent the money, or that it's got corruption or whatever is going on. It's just not happening. So it's not our will to do that. But one of the things we started saying is just pick it up. Just be proud. Pick it up. Be proud. Pick it up. Be proud. And when kids start doing that, their friends say, what are you doing? Someone else is going to do that for you. That's what the cleaners are for. Oh, your mom's going to come get it for you. No, the kid picks it up. He's proud. And then his friends start looking, well, wow, I got to kind of do what Tommy's doing as well, or the other person on the street. And I've seen it happen, and it works. So good stuff. We can all trigger that and put the spider web back together, so we don't have those breaking links.
I love it, Doug. A bit of direct action. I worked with a great project in London where they went to all of the overfilled rubbish bins, and people see a rubbish bin, even though it's overfilled, and they still put their plastic triangular sandwich pack or bottle on top of it. The wind blows it and it goes in the river, of course. So they just took all these overfilled litter bins, took photographs of them and displayed them as artwork from London City. And it had an instant effect, as the people, they were sort of in a joking way celebrating this amazing piece of artwork on the embankment of London or something. And it was a way of something everyone, if it's full, you just hang on to your bottle, take it home with you and dispose of it properly. So we just need this kind of direct action. Own it, take it home with you. Remember the spider and what's his name, Nagassi story from Doug.
Nagassi.
And do go on to Doug's website. I go onto it regularly, and he's a force of nature. This man for the. Even though you may not be 15 anymore, Doug, but you're a man for the future.
Only 16. Still, I'm in perpetuity with you. So
Bravo, Doug.
To see you soon.
Keep up the great work. So see you here in Geneva or there in Hong Kong.
Guys. Awesome event. Keep it going.
Well, Doug, thanks so much for joining us. It's a real highlight. Thanks again, sir. You take care.
Okay, Paul. Have a good day.
Well,